You hit your alarm at 7 in the morning and you groan. Maybe you hit snooze once, maybe twice. You roll over, check your phone, and you think to yourself that waking up this early should be illegal. Now, imagine waking up in 1538 England. There is no alarm, there is no phone, there is no mattress. You are lying on a straw pallet on the stone floor of a kitchen, and the only reason you know it is morning is because the cook just kicked the sole of your foot and told you the fire has gone cold. It is 4 a.m. You cannot see your own hand in front of your face, and your day, a day that will not end for another 18 hours, has officially begun. You are a servant girl in Tudor, England. You are probably somewhere between 12 and 16 years old. You were sent here from your village because your family could not feed you anymore, or because your parents thought working in a wealthy household might teach you something useful, like manners or how to survive. Your parents may have genuinely believed they were doing you a favor. In some cases, young girls were chosen for service, specifically to improve their education and social standing. Widowed women, too, were often taken in as servants because they had nowhere else to go. So the household you ended up in might have seemed like a step up from the one-room cottage where your whole family slept in the same bed. Roughly a quarter of the entire population of England works as servants right now, which means this is not unusual. This is just life. But here is what no one explained to you before you arrived. This job will test every ounce of endurance you have, and most of the things that could kill you today do not even exist in the modern world anymore. The first thing you need to do is get the kitchen fire going again. This is not flipping a switch. There are no matches. You are on your knees in the dark, blowing on last night's embers, feeding in dried kindling, and hoping something catches before the cook loses patience. Your fingers are numb. The stone floor has pulled every degree of warmth out of your body overnight. If it is winter, and you are in a household outside London, the temperature inside this kitchen may not be much warmer than it is outside. We are talking about a country where the Thames has been known to freeze solid. Once that fire is burning, the real work starts. You are hauling water. And I do not mean turning on a tap. I mean you are walking to the nearest well or stream in the dark, filling wooden buckets that weigh about 40 pounds each when full, and carrying them back to the kitchen on a wooden yoke across your shoulders. You will do this several times before the sun comes up. Your shoes, if you even own a pair, are thin-soled leather that does nothing to protect your feet from the mud and frost. Most lower servants go barefoot for much of the year because shoes wear out fast and replacements are expensive. Every drop of water in this household, for cooking, for cleaning, for washing, for everything, passes through your hands first. By the time the family upstairs wakes around 6 or 7, you will have already been working for 2 or 3 hours. If you are working in a large manor or a palace, the scale of what happens next is almost impossible to picture. Take Hampton Court under Henry VIII. The kitchens there spread across 55 rooms. 200 people worked in them. They produced somewhere between 600 and 800 meals twice a day for the court. The whole operation covered around 3,000 square feet of roasting spits, boiling pots, pastry ovens, fish larders, meat larders, and dry goods storage. You are one small body in a sprawling machine that feeds an entire royal household. And you are at the absolute bottom of the chain. Henry VIII himself actually had to issue an order telling his kitchen scullions to stop walking around the kitchens naked and to stop sleeping on the floor by the fireside. That is a real instruction from the King of England, which should give you a pretty clear picture of what the working conditions were actually like in those rooms. The heat from the open fires was so intense that the lowest-ranking workers would strip down and collapse wherever they could find space. And these were not clean spaces. Grease coated the walls. Meat scraps littered the floor. The air was thick with smoke and the smell of animal fat rendering over open flame. Burns were constant. You are working over fires that have no safety guards, no temperature controls, no fire extinguishers mounted on the wall. Boiling pots sit on iron grates above open flames. You are turning roasting spits by hand for hours at a stretch, close enough to the heat that your skin reddens and blisters. Grease fires were a regular hazard. A splash of hot fat could leave a scar you carried for the rest of your life, and there was nothing to treat it with except maybe a poultice made from herbs that your grandmother swore worked, but probably did not. Now, about the food you actually get to eat. Because you are watching all of this food being prepared, these enormous quantities of roasted meat, pies, stews, and pastries, and almost none of it is for you. The upper household and the courtiers eat roasted game, lamb, venison, and occasionally more exotic dishes like conger eel. On a special occasion, they might get swan. you get bread. Specifically, you get coarse bread made from barley or rye, not the fine white manchet bread that goes upstairs. You get cheese and onions. If you are lucky, you get a bowl of pottage, which is basically grain boiled in water with whatever vegetables were available. Maybe some cabbage, some turnips, maybe a few scraps of meat if the cook is feeling generous. This is your one hot meal of the day. Meals in a Tudor household are served at strict times. Dinner, the main meal, comes around 10 or 11 in the morning. Supper follows around 4 or 5 in the afternoon. If you are in a large household, you eat in the kitchen while keeping an eye on whatever is still cooking. You do not sit at the main servants' table in the hall. That is for the upper servants, the steward, the lady's maid, the head cook. You eat standing, or crouched in a corner, shoveling down your bread and pottage as fast as you can because there is always something that needs scrubbing or fetching or stirring. And here is the thing about water. You cannot drink it, not safely anyway. Tudor England has no water treatment, no filtration, no understanding of waterborne disease. The water supply is contaminated with sewage, with runoff from slaughterhouses, with waste from tanneries and dye works. Everyone knows the water can make you sick, even if nobody knows why. So, what do you drink instead? Ale. Weak ale, sometimes called small beer. Everyone drinks it. Men, women, children, servants, even the monks. The brewing process kills off some of the bacteria, which is why it is safer than the water, though nobody understands the science behind that yet. They just know that the people who drink the water get sick more often than the people who drink the ale. Your diet is monotonous, and it is low on nutrition by modern standards, but it is actually, by a strange twist of history, potentially healthier than what the wealthy are eating. The rich load up on meat and sugar and ignore vegetables almost entirely. The poor eat vegetables because they cannot afford anything else. So the servant class, without knowing it, is getting more vitamins from their turnips and cabbages than the lord of the manor is getting from his 5th course of roasted pheasant. Not that this advantage matters much, because what is about to kill you probably is not malnutrition, it is everything else. The hygiene situation in Tudor England is the thing that would break most modern people within the first hour. The streets outside the house where you work are not paved in most towns. They are packed dirt and mud, and running through them is an open channel that is, effectively, the town's sewer. Rotting food, animal dung, and human waste all end up in this channel. Butchers dump offal directly into the street. Chamber pots are emptied from upper-story windows with, at best, a warning shout before the contents come splashing down. The smell in a Tudor town on a warm day is something your modern nose has no frame of reference for. This is not a garbage truck driving past on a hot afternoon. This is a permanent, all-encompassing stench that soaks into your clothing, your hair, and the walls of the buildings around you. Your clothing adds another layer to this. As a servant, you wear coarse wool, the same dress day after day, soaked in smoke and grease and sweat. You own maybe 2 sets of clothes, if you are fortunate. Linen undergarments, called shifts, are the layer closest to your skin, and they absorb most of the sweat and grime. Washing these shifts is one of the few ways you manage any kind of personal cleanliness, but even that requires time you rarely have. And bathing? You are not doing much of that. There is a common belief during this period that bathing actually opens your pores and lets disease in. When outbreaks of sweating, sickness, or plague roll through, people avoid water even more than usual. You might wash your hands and face. You might change your linen undergarment if you own more than one, but a full bath is a rare event, and even when it happens, you are sharing the water with several other people. The lady of the house bathes first, in water that was heated bucket by bucket over the fire you built. By the time the servants get a turn, if they get one at all, that water has been through 3 or 4 people already. Your teeth, by the way, are actually in decent shape compared to the wealthy. Sounds odd, but sugar is expensive, and the rich consume it in enormous quantities. Their teeth rot out of their heads. Queen Elizabeth I was famous for her blackened teeth later in life, and she was hardly alone. Your teeth, if you are a poor servant, are stained and not particularly clean, but they are functional because you cannot afford the sugar that would destroy them. Now we need to talk about what is going to try to kill you, because there is a long list and most of it is invisible. The big one is plague. Bubonic plague never fully left England after the Black Death of 1348. It comes and goes in waves throughout the Tudor period, and when it arrives in your town, the mortality is catastrophic. The 1592 to 1593 outbreak killed roughly 15,000 people in London alone. The 1603 outbreak, right at the end of the Tudor period, killed around 1/5 of London's entire population. When plague hits, the wealthy leave. They pack up their households and move to their country estates. The government eventually started ordering quarantine measures, shutting infected houses and marking their doors, trapping everyone inside whether they were sick or not. You do not have a country estate. You do not even have the right to leave your employer's household without permission. So if plague arrives at your doorstep, you stay, and you hope, and you listen to the sounds of your neighbors dying through the walls. But plague is not even the strangest killer out there. Tudor England has its own unique disease, something that appeared in 1485 and vanished by 1551. And to this day, nobody is completely sure what it was. They called it the sweating sickness. It came on without any warning. 1 minute, you felt fine. Then a sudden wave of dread would wash over you, followed by headaches, neck pain, weakness, and a cold sweat that covered your entire body. Fever and heart palpitations followed. And within 3 to 18 hours, 30 to 50% of the people who caught it were dead. Not 30 to 50% over weeks or months. Within hours, 5 separate epidemics of sweating sickness hit England between 1485 and 1551. The disease seemed to target the young and healthy more than the old and weak, which made it even more terrifying. When rumors of the sweat reached a town, anyone with means fled immediately. During one outbreak, Cardinal Wolsey sealed himself off from the world and allowed only 4 servants to approach him. Henry VIII himself moved from palace to palace, trying to outrun it. Anne Boleyn caught it and survived. Thousands of others were not so fortunate. And what does Tudor medicine offer you if you get sick? Almost nothing useful. The entire medical system is built on a theory from ancient Greece that says your body contains 4 humours: blood, black bile, yellow bile, and phlegm, and that illness happens when these humours fall out of balance. So a Tudor doctor, if you could even afford one, and you absolutely cannot on a servant's wages, would diagnose you by examining your urine. He would hold it up to the light, he would smell it, he might even taste it, and then he would likely prescribe bloodletting, which involves cutting open a vein and draining blood into a bowl, because he believes you have too much of one humour and draining blood will restore the balance. The doctors are also all men. Women are prohibited from practicing medicine formally, along with law and politics. The closest thing you have to medical care is the local wise woman or midwife, who uses herbal remedies passed down through generations of mothers and grandmothers. Some of these remedies actually have medicinal properties. Willow bark contains a compound related to modern aspirin. Honey has genuine antibacterial qualities, but the wise woman is also just as likely to prescribe a poultice of groundworms or a charm recited over a candle. And if anyone accuses her of witchcraft, which happens with disturbing regularity during this period, she might end up on trial for the very healing she was trying to do. The average life expectancy in Tudor England is around 35 years. That number is skewed heavily by infant and child mortality, because between 1/3 and half of all children born die before the age of 16. If you survive childhood and your teenage years, you might live into your 50s or 60s, but as a servant girl, the odds are not stacked in your favor. You are exposed to every disease that passes through the household. You are malnourished relative to modern standards. You are exhausted from working 18-hour days. And the thing most likely to kill a woman in this period after disease is childbirth. About 1% of pregnancies end in the mother's death, which sounds low until you realize that most women go through multiple pregnancies, and over a lifetime, the cumulative risk of dying in childbirth is somewhere between 5 and 7%. Jane Seymour, Henry VIII's third wife, died days after giving birth to the future Edward VI. Elizabeth of York, Henry VIII's own mother, died after childbirth. If queens are dying from this, imagine what it looks like for a servant girl with no access to any medical care at all. And here is the part that might disturb you more than the disease or the filth. You have almost no legal protection and almost no freedom. The Statute of Artificers, passed in 1563 under Elizabeth I, controls almost every aspect of your working life. Your wages are capped by law. Local magistrates set the maximum amount your employer can pay you, and it is illegal for them to pay more than that amount. It is also illegal for you to accept higher pay, and you cannot simply quit. The statute says that no servant shall depart from his or her master before the end of the contract term. You are locked in for the duration, which is typically 1 year. If you leave your position without permission, or if you are dismissed, and cannot find new employment, you become a vagrant in the eyes of the law. And Tudor England treats vagrants with a brutality that is difficult to comprehend by modern standards. Under various vagabonds, acts passed throughout the 1500s, the punishments for being caught begging or wandering without work include being whipped through the streets until your back is bloody. If you are caught a second time, authorities could bore a hole through the cartilage of your ear with a hot iron. A third offense could carry the death penalty. Under one particularly harsh version, passed in 1547, able-bodied vagrants, without work for more than 3 days, could be branded with the letter V and sold into slavery for 2 years. These laws were not theoretical. They were enforced, though inconsistently, by justices of the peace across the country. And the fear of falling into vagrancy is one of the main reasons servants tolerated conditions that would be unimaginable today. If you are a woman in Tudor England, your career options outside of domestic service are brutally limited. You could work as a street vendor, a baker, a seamstress, a textile worker, or a brewery worker. You could not act on the stage. You could not practice law. You could not hold political office. You could not attend university. The path from servant girl to anything resembling independence was narrow, and it almost always ran through marriage, which brought its own set of risks and restrictions. So you kept your head down. You did the work, because the alternative was the street, and the street could kill you faster than the kitchen. Your working day stretches somewhere between 15 and 18 hours. You were the first person awake in the household, and you will be the last to go to sleep. In between, you haul water, build fires, prepare food, clean pots, scrub floors, empty chamber pots, wash linens, and handle whatever else the cook or the lady of the house decides needs doing. A half day off per week is the most you can expect, and even that depends on your employer's generosity. Sunday might offer a few hours of rest after church if the household does not expect an elaborate dinner that day. And the work itself carries physical dangers that go beyond burns from the kitchen fire. Laundry is one of the most hazardous tasks a servant girl performs, and not for the reasons you would think. Washing clothes in Tudor England means going to the nearest river or stream, kneeling on the bank, and scrubbing garments by hand in the current. Women's clothing in this period is heavy. Multiple layers of wool and linen, soaked in water, become extraordinarily weighty. Women fell into rivers and drowned while doing laundry with shocking regularity. Their waterlogged clothes dragged them under, and in an era when most people, especially most women, could not swim, a slip on a muddy riverbank could be fatal. Stains that would not come out with plain water required lye, a caustic solution made from wood ash. You mixed it by hand, it burned your skin. Prolonged exposure cracked and split the skin on your fingers and palms until your hands looked decades older than the rest of you. There were no rubber gloves, there was no moisturizer. You just kept scrubbing until the stain was gone, or your hands started bleeding, whichever came first. And for the real stubborn stains, particularly on white linen, the cleaning agent of choice was human urine. This is not a joke. Urine contains ammonia, which works as a bleaching agent, and Tudor laundresses used it routinely. You would collect it in buckets and soak the stained linen in it before scrubbing. Sometimes the garments had to be disassembled first, the cuffs and decorative pieces removed, washed separately, and then sewn back on again by someone else. The royal laundress at Hampton Court, a woman named Anne Harris, managed this entire process for Henry VIII's personal garments, and it was a position that actually carried some status, despite what it involved. She had her own workspace and her own staff. But the work itself was still backbreaking, and the smell was exactly what you are imagining right now. You are now about 16 hours into your day. The sun set hours ago. The kitchen has been scrubbed down, the last of the pots scoured with sand and stacked to dry. Your back aches from bending over washtubs and fire grates. Your hands are raw from lye and hot water. Your feet are swollen from standing on stone floors since before dawn. The cook has gone to bed. The household above you has gone quiet. You make your way to your sleeping spot. If you work in a large household, you might share an attic room with other female servants, sleeping 2 or 3 to a bed on a straw-filled mattress that has not been changed in weeks. The room has no window glass, just a wooden shutter that lets in cold air and keeps out most of the rain. If you work in a smaller household, you might sleep in the kitchen, on a pallet near the dying fire, which is exactly the arrangement Henry VIII had to scold his servants about. The straw is scratchy and probably harbors fleas. In a Tudor household, fleas and lice are not occasional nuisances. They are constant companions. Everyone has them, rich and poor alike, though the wealthy can at least afford to change their bedding more often. For you, the itching is just background noise at this point. You scratch absently while you lie there, too tired to care, too exhausted to do anything except close your eyes and wait for sleep to come. And as you lie there in the dark, listening to the mice in the walls and the occasional scurrying of a rat across the kitchen floor, you know that in a few hours the cook will kick your foot again and the whole thing starts over. The same water hauling, the same fire building, the same scrubbing and cooking and cleaning, day after day, week after week, month after month, for a wage that the government has legally capped at a level that will never allow you to save enough to change your circumstances. The population of England is growing fast during the Tudor period. It nearly doubled from about 2.26 million in 1525 to 3.89 million by 1591. That means more competition for every job, more pressure on wages, higher food prices, and less bargaining power for a servant girl who can be replaced by the next desperate 12-year-old from the next village over. Employers know this. They do not need to treat you well to keep you, because there are 10 other girls lined up behind you who would take your place tomorrow. And the cost of living is climbing steadily throughout the century, reaching a peak in the 1580s and 1590s that squeezes the poor harder than any generation before them. A third of the population lives in poverty. Bad harvests, which hit with brutal regularity throughout the 1500s, drive food prices even higher and push families that were barely surviving into outright starvation. The monasteries that once provided charity to the poor were dissolved by Henry VIII in the 1530s, and nothing adequate replaced them for decades. If you lost your position as a servant during a famine year, your options were begging, which was now a criminal offense, or starving. This is the world that a servant girl in Tudor England woke up to every single morning. No labor laws, no minimum wage, no workplace safety standards. No antibiotics, no clean water, no understanding of how disease actually spread. A legal system that punished poverty itself as a crime. A medical establishment that thought draining your blood was a cure. And a daily reality of physical labor so relentless that your body would be worn out by your 30s if disease or accident did not claim you first. The Tudor period gave England Shakespeare and the defeat of the Spanish Armada and the foundations of the Church of England. But it also gave roughly a quarter of its population a life of service that most of us alive today could not endure for 24 hours. Every glass of clean water you pour from your kitchen tap, every time you check the weather on your phone before deciding what to wear, every time you complain about your commute or your boss or the temperature in your office, you are living in a comfort that a Tudor servant girl could not have conceived of, let alone experienced. She would have looked at your life and thought you were royalty. And compared to what she endured every single day, from the 4 a.m. darkness to the flea-bitten straw at midnight, you basically are. If this video taught you something you did not know, hit subscribe and leave a comment telling us which part of Tudor servant life you think you could handle the least. A like on this video helps more people find it. And we have more history coming that you are not going to want to miss.